Hey guys, welcome back to The Bright Side. Macy here, The Bright Side Girl, and today I'm coming at you with some nerdy end of the year reading stats. Happy New Year's Eve, you guys. Coming at you with one last video for 2024. One of my favorite videos, but one that I have to wait the longest to film because this is going to be my reading stats and just all kinds of nerdy things for the end of the year. We're going to be talking about percentages of things, how many books I read, audios versus physical books, narrators, rereads, new releases of the year, and all that kind of stuff. So if that sounds good to you, then just keep watching. All right, I'm going to grab my laptop. I moved you over because I need to have my laptop visible. As you can see, we are in transition. I'm going to get ready to turn the books around. You're going to see at least 2, if not 3 more videos with them backwards, and then they will be all fresh for the new year. So we always like to start the video with my year in books on Goodreads. So I use Goodreads to track my reading. I do some things on my own as well. At the end of the year, they do a my year in books. So we're going to go over that together before we go into my own little stats that we have compiled. They always send this at the end of the year and it will be like at the top of your Goodreads account. This is going to be just slightly off because I added my final book read a few minutes ago. It takes a minute to update it, so this will be somewhat accurate. I have read 171 books this year at a total of 54,052 pages. This is just the amount of pages in a book I have read. Technically not accurate because most of these are audiobooks, but it's always good to kind of get an idea. I read 22 graphic novels this year, 3 ebooks, which is a lot for me because I don't do ebooks very often. Only 9 physical books. This does not include the ebooks or the graphic novels, and then 137 audiobooks. So I do most of them on audio, if that gives you an idea into how I do so many every year. It's just because I'm listening like pretty much all the time. The shortest book I read this year is Birdie's Christmas Eve. I read this one last minute for Jingle Bellathon just to kind of complete my graphic. It was a total of 8 pages. Just a short Christmas story. I did not like it. I did this one on audio, and we're going to talk about more specific stats after we go through this Goodreads list because Goodreads does not separate audio and physical books yet. The longest book that I read was The School for Good and Evil, book 3, at 655 pages. This was also on audiobook. My average book length was 317 pages. I think slightly less than last year. My most shelved book, meaning the most people have put like want to read, TBR, read, all of that stuff, is of course Fourth Wing at 3,909,852 people. Fourth Wing has just taken the world by storm. My least shelved was a graphic novel called Epic Adventure Kingdom, with only 114 people shelving this book. My average rating for 2024 was 3.8, which I feel like is high. I feel like my average usually sits at like a 3.5. I almost never give books 1 star, and I'm a little stingy with my 5, so this feels a little higher than normal, which is great. The highest rated book that I read, meaning everybody on Goodreads highest rated combined, was of course Fourth Wing. First review of the year was The Family Game. So this was the first book I completed in 2024 by Catherine Steadman. I really enjoyed this one, by the way. And then my last review of the year was The Christmas Party. All right, so now we're going to go over some stats that I have compiled, and also a very sweet friend of mine who is really into like stats and data and all that kind of fun stuff helped me compile an even more detailed list than I normally do, especially for the audiobook side. This was our first year doing this and we did it at the end of the year, so these might be slightly off just because Goodreads was having trouble and then I was having trouble, but we're going to go through these kinds of fun stats. All right, so we did my shortest and my longest audiobook through Goodreads. My shortest audiobook was the Bertie's one. The shortest graphic novel that I read was Animal Crackers and Extraordinary. Both of these were at 112 pages. And then my shortest hardcover was Samantha's Surprise, which is a American Girl story that I reread for Jingle Bellathon. My longest books were The Last Ever After, which was the final book in School for Good and Evil for audio at 21 hours. The graphic novels, we have a 3-way tie between one of the Space Boy novels, The Princess and the Grilled Cheese, and Thirsty Mermaids. All of these were tied at 256 pages. And then the longest hardcover that I read was episode 13 at 433 pages. I actually physically read and did the audiobook for this at the same time. I only counted it once in the Goodreads, but I did those together. The author that I read the most from was Sarah J. Maas, and that was because I was doing a Throne of Glass books reread this year. My goal was to finish all of them. I didn't make it, so I'll be continuing that into 2024. But I listened to the first 4 of these books. I'm like halfway through book 5. Jeff Lemire was my longest graphic novel author at 6. I read, I think, the Descender series. I really like this one for Galaxy-a-thon. Highly recommend. And then I didn't have a most read author for physically reading because I only read like 1 from each author. All right, my most read books in a month was May at 16 books, which is a little bit surprising to me, but then also not, because I feel like I read so much when we do Hike-a-thon, which is my nature, fitness, outdoorsy themed readathon, and I know I read some shorter ones for that as well. So I did 16 audiobooks, and then my most read graphic novels we did in March, which was for Galaxy-a-thon. That makes sense. I like the space graphic novels quite a bit. And then my most read physical books was also in March, which is kind of surprising. I did not physically read hardly at all this year. My least read month was November, where I only did 5 audiobooks, partially because I did some longer ones, and then I just kind of took a break after spooky season as well. And then I did 1 graphic novel and 1 physical book, but May for graphic novels because I read 1, but I feel like some other months I only read 1 or less as well. I didn't have 1 for physically reads because a lot of months I only read 1. So my most read month overall was March because of Galaxy-a-thon and because I read like so many graphic novels. I did 13 on audio, 7 graphic novels, and 4 hardcovers. My average rating for hardcover books that I read was 3.4. For graphics, it was 4.1, and for audios, it was 3.7. My most listened to narrator was Rebecca Solar, which was awesome because she is my favorite narrator, and I didn't purposefully seek out her books this year, but I listened to like the rest of the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. I did Fourth Wing, Spectacular, different things like that, so it just kind of worked out this year. So I had a total of 2 DNFs this year, which I think I had like 9 or 10 last year, so this is a lot better. I had no 1 stars, also so much better. I had 11 2 stars or like 2.5s. Some of these were Meet Me in the Fourth Dimension, Betrothed, which was a reread, and I knew it was going to be lower, but I did it for a reason. And then recently I read Snowdrowned, which I really did not like. I had 51 3 stars, which is lower than normal because I had more 4 stars. I feel like I was maybe a little bit looser with my 4 stars this year than I should have been, but that's okay. So I had 82 4 stars, and then I had 27 5 stars. However, I feel like a large chunk of these were from rereading or from reading graphic novels, so I want to say I probably have like 15 or under actually new to me non-graphic novel 5 stars. So it was a good year for books, but not necessarily a ton of new 5-star reads. I did a total of 12 rereads this year. Pretty much all of them were to finish up series. I like to reread at least the last book in the series that I read if it's been over a year to finish up the series. I think the only one I reread that wasn't part of a series was Burning Midnight, and I did this with a friend because it is one of my all-time favorites. It was such a fun reread, and I did it via audio. I did a total of 24 new releases, which is pretty high for me. This is like an average of 2 per month, and I enjoyed so many of the new releases that came out this year. I kind of leaned a little bit away from reading too many new releases in the past couple years because they were just not going over very well, but I liked so many of them, and a lot of them were debuts, so it was a great year for new releases. Some of the new releases I really loved this year were Listen to the Lie, Map of the Other Lands, The 13th Child, I love this one so much, and Compass and Blade. I really enjoyed these. I did not read any nonfiction books this year, and I really want to read more. I used to like exclusively read nonfiction books just to like grow my soul and my spirit, and I feel like it's really good for you, and there are so many good ones and ones that are also like fun and not necessarily about like learning and growth. So I do want to try and read a couple next year, especially because I can do them via audio. I did a total of 15 middle grades, which is about average for me. This includes some of the graphic novels. I did 41 adult books, which is just slightly higher than normal for me, and then 115 young adult books. The oldest book I read was The Holly Tree, which came out in 1855. This is by Charles Dickens. I just read a short story from him for Jingle Bellathon. I really enjoyed it. I did like the radio audio version of this audiobook. It was really short. It was like maybe 40 minutes, and it was just such a good one for the holiday season. It was a little ghosty as well. The newest book that I read this year was The Christmas Countdown and Spectacular. Both of these came out on October 22nd, 2024, and I enjoyed both of them. I completed 9 series this year, which means that I just wrapped them up. So I didn't necessarily start them this year, but I got them finished and done. That's a lot lower for me, but I also didn't start too many new ones, which is good. So we're gonna call that a win. My best readathon was actually Galaxy-a-thon this year. This is my space-centered readathon, and I read a total of 17 books. I was like extra excited for it this year, and I got a lot of graphic novels that I really enjoyed. I love this readathon so much, and I enjoy so many of the books, so stay tuned for that one. And lastly, we're just gonna talk about some kind of personal stats. My most liked Instagram photo was my Mermaid Marathon announcement, which is not a surprise. This one got 134 likes and a bunch of comments and shares. You guys are just so crazy for mermaids, and I love that because it's just so niche, and this is like my most popular thing. I just find it so much fun. This is also the readathon that we usually have the most participants. My most liked reel on Instagram was actually a repost, which I encourage anyone that's on Instagram to do this. Like, anyone expects anybody to post something brand new every single day is kind of crazy. If you are able to do that, that is amazing and fabulous, but I feel like we should be reusing some of our content and just like changing out the caption, because there's so many new people that haven't seen it, especially with the reels, because they're so much more difficult to make. And a good example of this is POV reel that I posted about Ruth Wears One by One, and I want to do more of this style next year. It's like POV, you're like trapped in a ski cabin and then all your friends start dying one by one, and then I promote the book. This one got 1,900 views, but this was my second posting, so I had also posted it earlier in January and it only got 400 views. So reposting is sometimes really good, and a lot of people had not seen this before because of the way the algorithm works. Not all of your stuff is getting seen by everyone that follows you, so I was glad I reshared that one. My most watched YouTube video was my Mermaid Marathon announcement at 776 views, which is not surprising, but also surprising. I just find it so funny because you would think something like a book haul or a bookshelf tour would get more views because it's a little bit more broad and more appealing to the mass public. But you guys love mermaids, and I love that for us. Okay, I was a little bit more chaotic and disorganized for this video than I was wanting to be, but it's been kind of a crazy last part of the year. So I may have missed a few stats, I may have done things a little bit wacky, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you enjoy watching this kind of thing, because I can do somewhat similar things next year if there's like a lot of interest for it. Hit me up with some of your stats if you know them down below in the comments. Stay tuned for a slew of videos coming starting tomorrow. We've got so many videos that need to be up this like first week of January. I'm so excited to jump into 2025 with all of you. Hopefully read some epic books and make it our best reading year yet. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at The Bright Side Girl. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time on The Bright Side.